Hello everybody, welcome back to Mountain Computers. It's been a while again, always has been, always probably will be. Today we're going to be taking a look at a piece of technology from my youth, something that I used to use quite a lot on an almost daily basis, if not daily. I've got it right here behind me. This is my fully stock original Game Boy Advance. If we take a closer look at it here, you can probably see that it's not exactly in the cleanest shape that it's ever been in, and it has some damage that I'd like to take care of with it here today. I've got a copy of Pokemon Sapphire in here to demonstrate with, and quite a bit on this has had a rough life at this point. The battery door hinge is snapped off. This R button has seen better days, and of course it still has the original non-backlit LCD in there. But if we turn it on, the batteries in there should still be good enough to turn on and play for a second. You can see that it does still boot up the game. So, my goals today are to attempt to fix up some of the problems, do some cleaning for one, and get that R button replaced that's not in great shape. Get a battery door on here that has an actual hinge in place. Generally probably just kind of take some of these stickers off. It's sad they're original, but at the same time they're just not doing so hot. So we'll do that. I think I'm going to attempt to replace the battery that's in this game. It's gone quite dead at this point, and I would like to replace it, but I know that if I do that, the clock functions aren't going to start working again, probably, unless I restart my save game. And this is my save game is on this cartridge, so I'm not super enthused about the idea of just taking it and dumping it, but we'll see. Maybe I'll go to the effort of transferring some of the Pokemon off of this onto some of the newer systems and stuff. Maybe not, I don't know. I probably won't do that on camera if I do, but we'll probably still replace the battery for this in this video. And another thing is that I would like to replace this old LCD screen, non-backlit, with a nice new IPS LCD that's backlit, and then we'll probably go ahead and put some rechargeable AA's in here. I think I have some alkalins in there, and I'd like to get replaceables in there, and or sorry, not replaceables, they're all replaceable. Reusables in there, rechargeables. I know that they won't last as long per charge, but it's just going to be better in the long run if I have something that I can recharge in there and not be replacing all the time. So yeah, that's today's objectives. Let's go ahead and start taking a look at what we're going to use to accomplish those goals. So I've got some new accessories here for all of the user interactable bits, the side panels, the L and R buttons, the D-pad. I'm not sure if I'm going to use all of these or just maybe like the L and R if they don't match up super well, but we'll take a look at how they compare once I start looking at them a little closer. I've got a new hinge here, a new back door rather, with a hinge that works. I've got some of these CR, what are they, 315s? I don't remember. I'll put the number up on the screen, but this is supposedly what goes into the Game Boy cartridges for batteries. So I've got tons of those, way more than I need, but they were sold in larger packs than what I thought, and they've got these little solder tabs on them so that you can use them with the cartridges. Some of the batteries like that don't come with those by default. And then I've got this new display assembly here. It comes with a new lens. That's usually what they call these, even though there's really no optical properties to them. The new display here, and then some other cabling things that we'll need to be able to drive this correctly. So this kit came with some screwdrivers. I have an iFixit kit handy here in case we can't use these, but it comes with the tri-wing here and a Phillips head for everything that you would need to supposedly be able to get into this. So that's pretty cool. We'll try those out. If they don't work out, then we will give the iFixit kit a workout. And yeah, so why don't we start tearing down the Game Boy Advance now, and then start cleaning some stuff up. Let's start by removing this back battery door. It's been taped on now for quite a long time. There's the batteries, and just get those out of there. Next, I think we will need to take out the tri-wing screws that are around the edges here, so I'll give that a shot. They've definitely been in there for quite a long time. Well, that one's being stubborn, so I think I'm going to try breaking out the iFixit kit here, just to get a little bit more leverage on the screw. Alright, hopefully you can excuse any train and or air conditioner sounds that might be coming through now. I've got my iFixit screwdriver here outfitted with what should hopefully be an appropriate screwdriver, and wow, that came right out with no problems. I should have been probably using that from the beginning, because that was just completely hassle-free. Maybe I can get this other screw that was unscrewed but didn't want to come out as well. Seems like not. I'm probably going to have to get it to come out with the shell when I try and part it. Okay. Well, at this point, I think I should have... Oh, nope, there's one more Phillips screw down at the bottom. Okay. So, we'll give the display kit's Phillips a shot here. Since it's just Phillips, I doubt it's going to be super picky. Yeah, it came right out. Cool. Okay, so now let's see if we can separate the shell here. Oh yeah, no problem. So there we go. One back shell, and there is all of the innards of the Game Boy Advance. Alright, so from what I can see here, it looks like we've got one screw here that's still holding the PCB in. And I'm not sure if I could see any others, but we will go ahead and undo this screw and then see where we are from there. Okay, so on the other side there's actually one more screw just right here. So we'll go ahead and undo that one as well. And then I think we've got it to where we can get this PCB out of here. Just to zoom out the camera here. There we go. And then hopefully this just lifts right out of there. Yeah, alright, awesome. Alright, so the next step for me is probably going to be to take all of these little pieces like this that are quite filthy at this point and just go ahead and give them a clean, probably with some isopropyl alcohol or with just some warm water and stuff like that, and then I will go ahead and come back. We'll clean the PCB together, I think. It needs some cleaning as well. And then we will look at getting some of these new parts installed. I just got this lens out of here, and I figured before I cleaned this part I would just show off how much color change there's been on this over time. The part here has been covered up since the unit was manufactured, and so hasn't undergone any kind of alterations to the plastic coloring there, and you can kind of see if I flip it over that the inside is that same color, but seeing it right next to the rest of the worn parts here really shows the difference there and how the tone of the plastic has changed over time. So I'm going to go ahead and start cleaning this now. Alright, I've got pretty much everything plastic now drying off. There was only one piece that I thought wasn't really a very faithful recreation, and that was the little power switch that normally goes right here, and it was basically just in the wrong color. They did it in the sort of beige color that most of the plastic parts are in, probably so that they didn't have to use one random one-off in another color like Nintendo apparently did. But for that reason, I guess I'm going to wind up keeping the original of that and wind up probably swapping everything else over to the newer stuff. The printing on the buttons was a little bit different, but very, very close, pretty much indistinguishable if you weren't A/B comparing them side by side. And so, yeah, I think that the newer parts will probably wind up holding up fairly well, and I'll go ahead and use those for everything else. So now we've got to clean this circuit board off here just a little bit. Not that we so much have to, just it's generally good practice. And so this speaker, usually people just take some isopropyl alcohol and rub it so that they get a bunch of the gunk that's on there off, and maybe you can see that there was some stuff on there that certainly needed to be cleaned off. So let's give that one more go here and see if we can get any more off. Stuff from the speaker grill over the years just kind of collects down into the speaker here, and it winds up accumulating quite a bit of gunk. Yeah, you can see I'm still getting more off of there. So I will clean that just a little bit more off camera maybe, but also something that's generally good to do is just take the button contacts and rub those down with some isopropyl alcohol. If they wind up getting any kind of buildup on them over time, then that can cause them to not register correctly. You know, if you have like some corrosion or anything like that. I don't think these ones are in that kind of bad a shape, but still just good practice to keep them cleaned up. And it's also kind of common, not as much with the Game Boy Advances, but I've seen where people have problems with the power switches on these pretty often, so they'll usually just take some isopropyl alcohol from a Q-tip and kind of try to blot it into there, and then give the switch a flick back and forth a few times to try and work it out. Some deox, it might work fairly well for this too, but yeah, so that should pretty generally have us going fairly well on the circuit board. I might just take the toothbrush that I've been using for cleaning and clean some of the electrical contacts on these in case they have some corrosion on them. This Q-tip seems to be doing okay. But yeah, I'll kind of work through doing this a little bit more thoroughly, and then I will be back and we'll have some soldering to do for the display installation. Okay, so I'm doing my best here to kind of follow these instructions. They're not in the best of English, but what I've gone ahead and done is taken this shaped adhesive and installed it all along the edges here, and then I'm not sure if you can see it. I think you can. There's actually some little plastic pieces that they ask you to put down in these bottom corners. I've gone ahead and installed those. I think the next thing they ask you to do is to go ahead and lay the LCD in, so I'll be back after I've got that in. Okay, so their illustration kind of intends to show you putting this as far off to the right here as possible. So I did my best to get it as far over there as I could. It looks like there's still just a little bit of a gap, but they also seem to indicate that you should try and get it as far down, if my camera would focus, on top of these little stops as you can. So push it this way, and I've gone ahead and kind of tried to do my best with that, so I think we're going to go ahead and move on to the next step here. Alright, so the next step now is to go ahead and plop this little PCB back on here, and then we're going to plug this into, I might have this 180 degrees around, but put this ribbon cable, I certainly do, into the little ribbon cable holder here, the socket I guess you would call that, and then I'm going to take this little ribbon cable here and I'm going to install it on the top here. Okay, I apologize for doing so many cuts with these. It's just pretty hard to reference the instructions back and forth while also filming. So I've gone ahead and I've got this ribbon cable installed here, and I've got the other one up here. So the next step would seem to be to take the main PCB for the GBA, reinstall it here, and then run this cable around down to the positive terminal on the PCB here, and then just solder it on there. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and maybe if I'm feeling motivated, I will go ahead and film just the little soldering bit there. So it dawned on me after filming that last clip that this is actually the point where we want to go ahead and install our new little button pieces. So I think we're going to go ahead and do that now. It might be a good point also to mention that all the parts that I've gotten for this video are things that I purchased myself. They're not provided by anyone. I just went out on eBay and bought them. So yeah, no sponsorship deals going on here. And let's go ahead and install these. This is the new D-pad part that I got, and it looks pretty close to the original. There is a little bit of keying on these. If you notice, there's a flat inside here, and theoretically there's a flattened part inside of the Game Boy here too. I'm not sure which side it's on, but it should only fit one way, I think, and maybe that's the correct way. So I will see, and if it's not, then we'll fix it, but we'll put that in there. The buttons, the A and B buttons, are much more obvious because they have these little pegs on them that stick off to the sides, and make sure that you definitely only put those into the correct sides. I believe A is this one, yep, and then B should be here. There we go. So then I have the L and R buttons. Here's that new R button, perfectly, well, not mangled, so that's good. I think that those stick down into here something kind of like this. I must be wrong because that doesn't look right at all. But I think those might have to go in after the PCB too. I'll futz around with those off camera, but there's also these cleaned up little rubber pads that I've got from the original that didn't come with new versions of these, so I'll be reusing the old ones, and they look much better now that they've been cleaned up. So yeah, I'm gonna keep moving on here with the PCB installation, and I'll get back with you guys once I'm ready for the next step on that. Alright, with no dedicated camera operator, this is going to be a little bit of a tricky shot here, but I've run the cable back around from that ribbon cable down around the capacitors here, up from here, and down to the positive terminal of the battery. And I'm hoping from here I can just give this wire a trim because there is some excess on there. The scale here is a little bit maybe not appreciated, but that's a rather small wire. So I'm just gonna get that off of there. And then I'm not sure if my wire strippers are going to have a setting that goes down small enough here. But we will go ahead and give it a shot, I guess. Just going to pull that wire up here if I can. It's pretty tricky. Come on. I'm trying to get it from above here so that it'll come up, but it's being rather difficult. Alright, there we go. Just see about that smallest setting, maybe. Try and use the camera as a guide to help me. No, that is too large for even the smallest setting. So if I'm going to strip that, I'm going to have to use my cutters to try and just barely skim off the shielding there. So let's give that a shot here, if I can. Nope, that was bad. Alright, I'm gonna see what I can do about this here, guys, and I'll be right back with you. Alright, that's one of the trickier things I think I've filmed. But I think I've got it soldered on there now, so I'm going to go ahead and take a look at the instructions to see what the next thing I need to do is. Alright, so as it turned out, the next step was just to reassemble the system, so I think I've got my back shell put back together here and the shoulder buttons mostly seated. That was pretty tough, so I didn't really do it on camera, but now we should be able to go ahead and start reinstalling these old screws. They aren't in the best of shape. Maybe I should have cleaned them, but I think they'll be good enough here. The point of this whole thing is less to restore this Game Boy to perfect, like factory condition, and more just to get it into a little bit more usable shape for me, and just so that I can kind of be able to use it without having as many problems in the modern age here, where we've gotten used to nice backlit displays and just generally have the whole thing, you know, feel a little nicer. That button might be a little stuck there. I might have to figure that out. The left one seems to be doing fine, but the right one, this one that we replaced with the better part, is kind of stuck down like the spring isn't working. So maybe I'll give that another shot and I'll come back to this once I've got it working. Alright, so I just reseated that real quick and you can now see both of those are working very well. I've got some fingerprints on the screen now that we'll have to clean off before we install the lens, but before we go ahead and do that, why don't I go ahead and just install some of these rechargeable batteries and turn the system on to make sure that the display works at all. Oh yeah, that looks pretty good. Alright. Let's try it with a game real quick. We'll just use the old Pokemon there. Definitely knows there's a game in there since it has the Nintendo logo, and there it is loading up. Awesome. Alright. That looks fantastic. Alright, so given that, let's go ahead and we'll clean the screen up. We'll install the lens. We'll put on the new battery cover, and then we'll start looking at the game itself. Okay, I've got that cleaned off just about as well as I can, I think. So now it's time to go ahead and install this lens, which is fitted with some 3M adhesive. If I can manage it here, maybe we'll get it installed okay. There we go. Yeah, that looks nice. Pretty close to original. I think this one's actually a glass instead of a plastic too. Yeah, alright. Well, we'll move on from that then. And we will go ahead and put the batteries back in. And I will install this new battery door. There we go. Looking pretty sharp. Alright, let's move on to the game next. Alright, same kind of screw as before gets you into the cartridge, then you just kind of peel off the face of the cartridge, and then you can get into the PCB for the game here. Now I'm just going to try and use my soldering iron to heat up this battery so that I can pull it away here. That's going to take a couple goes, I guess. We'll just flip this around here and try and work on the other side a little bit. Be nice if the camera would focus a little better, but I know it's tough for it when it's working on something this small. It's coming away here. That's probably not the best way to desolder this, and I have a desoldering sucker. I just don't generally like it very much, or using those things in general. Looks like we got this side to go ahead and pull away here now. We'll go ahead and do this side, and we should have this one fully removed. Cool. All right. So there we go. There's the battery removed. Next we'll try and clean up those solder pads a little bit, I think. I've got some desoldering braid over here. I think it should be okay. Just tear off the bit at the end here. It's already been used. There we go. No soldering expert, in case you couldn't already tell from this video, but I get along okay. Generally. That is quite a blob on there already. There we go, that's pretty good. What I'm trying to do right now, in case you're not super familiar with soldering, is just generally to work on taking out the solder that's already there so that we can replace it with some new fresh solder that generally is a little bit more amicable to sticking and not having problems in the future from corrosion spreading. I don't think we'd generally have that kind of an issue here because we're not dealing with parts where there's a lot of corrosion to begin with, but it's still good practice as far as I understand when you're soldering to do this kind of thing. I've never done this while filming before either, and that's its own challenge, really. Trying to make sure I don't bump the camera too badly. Also having a very poor idea of scale for how far away I need to hold my hand on this solder wick, since I'm mostly trying to solder through the viewfinder on the camera. Alright. There we go. That's not too bad. Good enough for government work, as you'll hear some people say. Alright. Then I'll just use a little bit of fresh solder here to put down onto those to go ahead and tin them. It's not too bad. Alright. Some parts in there that look a little nasty. I probably could have done a little better job of cleaning that up, but we'll give a shot at that off camera and we'll continue once I've got that done, I think. Alright, that's still not perfect. It's a little scorched, but I think we're kind of hitting the home stretch here on this video, and so I am feeling a little less picky. So next we'll go ahead and we'll try to get this battery soldered onto there. I think I've got it oriented correctly based on the old one. Alright. Tin up the iron here. They had a pretty good blob of solder on there, so I'm guessing I'm probably going to wind up needing the same. Managed to get that battery off center there, so come back and try that one more time here. There we go, maybe that's got it now, a little further. That might handle it. Alright. Go ahead and turn this around here. Try and give that battery just a little bit of time to cool off, because you don't want to overheat these particularly badly. Put a little more solder on this side now. Should remember to work in a pretty well ventilated space whenever you're working with soldering things like these, just as a general rule. But I think we've mostly got it, especially on this side. Maybe I'm gonna come back at this first side here just a little bit and try and submerge that top end a little bit more in solder there. Use the solder to kind of hold that down on the top there. How's that look? Not great, but it should conduct, that's for sure. Let's try a little more solder on the top there. Try and get it a little less cold jointed here, and use that to hold it down as it cools. There we go. That should do it. So I will get this reassembled, and we will do one more little test with the Game Boy unit as a whole. Alright, so we've got our modded Game Boy here. We've got our copy of Pokemon Sapphire installed, and we'll go ahead and turn the console on here. Just make sure that the game opens up and starts. So there we go. And it still says that the battery is run dry, but that is pretty common for situations where you have not gone ahead and started a new game yet. So I'm gonna look into potentially doing something with this save file first, but then after that maybe I'll go ahead and restart this and see about what I can do with the new battery installed. Otherwise, I think that is going to do it for today's video, guys. Thanks for watching, and I will catch you in the next one.